I see only one phone on here.
Me? Did you lose me?
There's two.
Yes, Janet, yeah.
On the list.
Who wants
No. Did you say Ron Antel was on?
He is on.
He's on. He's just not showing on my participant list, I guess. Is he on as an attendee, maybe?
I heard him.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm not
Okay.
on the
All right,
computer.
so we're working. So I have on my official clock here, 7 o'clock, so we can go ahead and start the council meeting for today and 2020. Well, now it's moving to 7:01 p.m. Call the meeting to order. The next order of business is we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone's sitting, so I guess we could stand or sit for this. Flags. Can everyone see the flag?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't see where I am. So, all right, so let's go ahead and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
flag
of the
United
States
States
of
of
America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
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 with liberty
liberty, and
and
justice
justice for
for
all.
all.
Thank you very much. All right, next order of business here is the roll call. Mr. Antel,
Present.
Mr. Bartko,
Here.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
thank you. Mrs. Davis,
I am here.
thank you. Mr. Fenn,
I am here too.
okay, and Mr. Poliak.
Here.
All right. So we're all on there. We have a full house, as Mr. Poliak had said. The next order of the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. And we need a motion to adopt that agenda as it is being presented to you, the council of the Village of Boston Heights. So I need someone to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Klingenberg, do you want to
Mr.
do the roll
Antel.
call?
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Barco,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes,
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay. So tonight's agenda is approved. And I just want to note for the record that on my screen, or at least on my list, Marshall Pitchford has joined us too. So we have our fiscal officer, Mrs. Klingenberg. We have our solicitor, Marshall Pitchford. I don't know if our engineer was going to join or not. So
No, he was not.
he was not. Okay. All right. So Mr. Poliak, has anyone signed up to want to speak at the open forum?
No one has signed up to speak at the open forum, and there are no new members of the public at the meeting. So I think you're good.
All right.
Wait. Not true. There is more members of the public have joined the meeting. I want to let all attendees know that if you click on the Q&A button and identify yourself and your address, you can be recognized by the mayor in this public participation forum. But you're not getting any.
Right.
I think you're good.
Okay. Little background music. Dun, 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 dun. Oh.
I think you're good, Mayor. There, no one from the public is requesting to be recognized to speak.
To speak. All right. Thank you, Mr. Poliak. We will move on to the ordinances for the evening. The first one, look at the ordinance itself, is an ordinance retroactively establishing two COVID-19 funds with permanent appropriations and declaring an emergency, and it is ordinance number 2020-9-23. First, in order to consider this, you need to have a motion to suspend the three reading rule, so we need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Miller? Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bartko.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to approve the suspension of the three reading rule has carried. I would now ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-9-23.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn. Any discussion?
I'll be happy to explain if anybody wants to hear.
Yes, please.
Okay, there are two funds that are available to everybody in Ohio. One is federally based and the other one is county based. And as a result, the state auditor has approved those funds. We don't have to ask approval. What we do have to do, though, is request a permanent appropriations for those two funds. If you look on your ordinance sheet, you'll see that 2151, which is the federal based one, we have $60,599 that we have received. And at this moment in time, that should be it. And 2152 is the Summit County COVID-19 fund. And that we have $30,299. So what I'm requesting, instead of going through the whole gambit, these two funds have to have permanent appropriations, and that's the amount of the permanent appropriations. And then I can send this down to Summit County. If any more questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Thank you, Mrs. Klingenberg.
One question, Betty.
Sure.
Because I've noticed that we've used 2151 for some supplies and we are using 2152 for other supplies. Is there a delineation of
No, as long as I have line items in there for them, that's fine. That's not a problem. We are
Okay.
basically taking out the expensive items that we have purchased and the things we did of total cleaning of this office, which is
Right.
like $700. So we have to rearrange that. And the rest of it is pretty much just payroll, and it's police payroll, mostly.
Okay, thank you.
And their benefits, whatever we can afford out of that amount of money.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Mrs. Klingenberg or myself? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion made by Mr. Antel, seconded by Mr. Fenn. Do a roll call vote, Mrs. Klingenberg.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes, becomes ordinance 2020-9-23. All right, the next one is a resolution. We have no more ordinances for the evening. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a 6-year addendum to the village equipment lease agreement with Valley Fire District, started in 2016, for a new fire pumper truck and declaring an emergency. And this will become resolution 2020-9-37 if we go on. So the very first thing we need to do in order to discuss this is to make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Thank
I'll
you, Mr.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Antel, and that was Mrs. Miller.
Mrs. Davis.
Oh, Mrs. Davis, I'm sorry. All right, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Klingenberg, could you?
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
and Mr. Bartko.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to suspend is carried. I would now ask for a motion to adopt resolution 2020-9-37.
I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Fenn.
I'll second.
Mr. Antel seconded. Thank you. Okay, any discussion?
I just have one comment. It's 2016 instead of 216. I forgot the 0 in that to correct it.
Oh, on the actual agenda.
Yeah.
It is correct on the, actual
Okay.
resolution. And that's where I was reading from, so. Okay. Hearing no questions, seeing none, I would say we have a motion made by Mr. Fenn, seconded by Mr. Antel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes, becomes resolution 2020-9-37. Thank you very much. That's the end of the resolution. We ended the ordinances before that, so we will move on to the mayor's report. Okay, and in consulting with Mr. Poliak, our president pro tem, the other day, and going over what the trick or treat guidelines were from the state of Ohio, I feel that we should move ahead with trick or treat on Saturday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. Police and fire will be patrolling. We're going to ask everyone to social distance in that. And the newsletter that's going to be going out here within the week, we'll have those guidelines from the state included with that newsletter so that parents know what the guidelines are and what they should do if they're concerned what the state is recommending. So we're doing that trick or treat. As you remember, we have said before, we're not going to do the fall festival this year because of the social distancing, and the Cemetery Association is not going to do the craft fair this year also. So because of that being inside and the whole thing, trick or treat is outside. Social distancing can be taken into consideration there. The last item I'm going to bring up at this point is the West Creek Conservancy, which is much like the Tinkers Creek Conservancy and Chagrin Valley Conservancy. The West Creek Conservancy has put money together and purchased 214 acres in Boston Heights and Northfield Center Township the land that is, as we refer to, the Life Center style sign, the land that is between Route 8 and the Ashbrook West developments. So they have purchased that, therefore assuring that that can remain mitigatable land that they can sell credits on, and that we won't have to worry about, anyone buying that, trying to build anything there. I talked with Derek Schaefer from the head of the Conservancy. They had been looking at this for quite a while. They had made offers that the owners had wanted $3 or $4 million to begin with. But very fortunately for the Conservancy, in June, they made an offer of $300,000, and the owners sold the land for that. So it is now in their control. I almost immediately called Kate Chappell, the lady over at the Tinkers Creek Conservancy, who's come to our meetings, and I informed her that I had heard this rumor. I was going to make sure I confirmed it. Well, I did confirm it with Derek, but I was also going to go online and make sure, and I did go online and found that the West Creek Conservancy is listed as the owner on all those parcels that add up to 214 some acres. So that's good news for the village, and actually for Northfield Township too, that we don't have to worry about that 100-acre floodplain having anything improper done there. Kate Chappell was excited. She thinks there's some grant money available. She's going to work with Brian Gorog and see what is available there. Derek Schaefer was interested in the fact that it's going to have a lot of credits that can be sold. And what credits are is when you're going to do a development and let's say there's a wetland spot on it, you're allowed to trade or buy those credits from, in this case, the West Creek Conservancy. And West Creek Conservancy will be able to correct issues with the Brandywine that occur there to eliminate flooding and things like that. So that's a very plus thing in this time of COVID. Very good thing for our village that's occurred. So
Well done.
anyway,
It's a great
so I wanted to, if anyone wants more information on that, I can possibly put them in touch with the Conservancy, or Kate Chappell might be able to tell you, but I'm kind of guessing that Brian, once he learns what Kate is thinking, that they can work on together to get some grants through our membership in the Brandywine program. So anyway, that's all I have in my report, unless somebody has questions. And we'll go on to the fiscal officer report.
Muted, John. You're muted, John. Don. There you
I got it. Kept hitting the wrong one. I do want you to be aware that a member of the public has asked a question or making a comment.
Okay.
If you want to recognize it.
Yeah, I have no objection to that.
All right, so during the mayor's report, you have a question from the public that says, it's not really a question, it's a comment. It says, it's time for these virtual meetings to cease and get back to meeting in the village hall.
Okay. Well, at this point in time, this is a question for the mayor. we have until the end of the year that the governor has said we can hold these meetings. We have looked at this. If we have all of our members of council, the solicitor, the fiscal officer, and the engineer, we would afford little, if no space for any audience in the hall. That being the case, and that being said, I was asked why we couldn't have the audience come in on Zoom. Problem that we have is if we were all in the same room and all had our laptops or our phones, there would be so much interference. We could not do that. So as a result, we all have to stay on Zoom separated, or we would be able to have a meeting in the village hall, but we would not necessarily be able to have any audience participate. And we do not have a movie studio where we can project this and send it to another building or put it online at this point. So we will have to go with this particular venue
Sorry, go ahead.
until we come up with something that works better. But that's the reason why we're staying on Zoom for this point. Mr. Poliak, has that answered the question, or do we know?
It wasn't a question, it was a comment, but,
Okay.
yep. So I'll go ahead and place that you addressed that. Thank you.
Mhm. All right. That being the case, then, Mrs. Klingenberg, do you have anything to report on?
I just have a couple of items. One is a reminder that the 0.75 mil fire levy is on November 3rd, and it's number 25 on the ballot. And the other item that we're keeping track of expenditures and how we're losing income and if we are, et cetera, et cetera. The Board of Workers' Compensation is meeting at the end of the month. They are seriously considering refunding the 219 premiums that each community has already paid, and we've paid approximately $12,000. And they're seriously considering doing that, which will also help for those particular villages and cities, et cetera, that are losing money. And that's a nice thing. I'm done.
Okay. Anything else, Mrs. Klingenberg? All right. We can move on to committee reports. Safety Committee, Valley Fire District. Anything to report there?
The only thing here is that we need another police vehicle, and we're considering a hybrid one to try one. The expense is a little bit more now, but it comes with a much better warranty for that. So that's the only item that's come up that I'm aware of. Mr. Fenn or Mrs. Davis, do you have anything else?
I
No.
do not.
I have one comment to make to you. Chief Riedel was gone today. He's gone to where the new fire truck for Valley Fire District is being assembled and is assembled, and he's picking it up today. So by the end of the week, I'm guessing there'll be a new fire truck there. I don't know if it'll be ready to operate just yet, but or what station it's going to be stored in until it's fully operational. I thought you might all enjoy that, knowing that that's on its way.
Good.
Great.
All right. So if there's nothing else from safety, then we'll go to roads and cemetery trustees.
Well, I think they finished Megan's Lane. If not, they're just cleaning up on it. It looks real nice. And a cemetery, really not too much. We painted the Garden of Angels fence, at least the posts, and we're going to tackle the rest of the chain in the next couple of months. And we canceled the not the fall festival, the craft show, because you know, if you have 10 tables and each person has 2 tables, boom. You're 20 people, nobody coming. Plus, we couldn't serve food and no beverages, no food, so no joy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Finn. What I wanted to comment on is Megan's has a few aprons that they did not finish. They wanted to do the pavement, let it set up a little while, then they're gonna, after the heat dissipates, they're gonna come back and do those,
Mhm.
I think there's 4 aprons that had some work that needed to be done on them. I think they have the planning done, it looks like, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Lands and buildings? Anything?
I have
Ms.
nothing
Small?
new unless you have some surprise for us.
Okay.
That's-
Economic
that's
community
needed.
development?
No.
Okay. How about, Mr. Poliak, you have something from the planning commission or BZA to report on?
I don't have anything new since since the last report.
Okay. Any old business? Any new business?
Mm-mm.
Any need for an executive session? I know of none. All right. So the council meeting is ending at 7:29. And we'll be starting the finance shortly.
Do you want us to just, those of us that are on the phone, do you want us to just roll over or do you need us to call back?
Oh, we can roll over, right, Don?
Yeah, don't call back. We'll take 2 minutes and we'll call to order at 7:30.